Hi everybody, I am Shannon Streich. I am with Raschein in Jefferson, Wisconsin.
I'm Raschein. I'm with RE/MAX Preferred in Madison.
Good morning, I'm Heidi Weltzin with RE/MAX Realty Center, and we have offices in Oconomowoc and Waukesha.
Bill Hayes with RE/MAX Grand out of Baraboo.
And the first question is, what first motivated you to get into real estate, and what surprised you the most about it and yourself? So we'll start with Shannon.
All right, well, I originally worked at RE/MAX office in a non-agent capacity, so I really got to know the business behind the scenes, and I did a lot of computer and marketing work, and I really was motivated by seeing the success that my coworkers in the office had and realizing that I had the skills to do it too, and why was I not, following that dream? So I didn't go into real estate really intentionally, it just sort of happened. And when I got going, it just surprised me how quickly people would come up to me and ask me about real estate and would send me messages. People that you would never even expect would suddenly look at me as a real estate person, and it didn't take long at all.
Okay, Ann.
So before I got into real estate, I was working in kind of a corporate America setting, and I knew I needed to make a career change. So I knew I wanted to be in a position where I could help people, and so I decided I'd take the dive into real estate. One of the things that surprised me is that all of a sudden I'm responsible for everything. As I said, I worked in corporate America, I had an IT department, I had a marketing department, and now all of a sudden I'm responsible for all of it. So having to quickly learn new skills and know that ultimately all of this is falling on my shoulders was a little bit of a surprise to me, but learned to get to a point where I could embrace that.
Okay, thanks. Heidi.
So I got into the business actually directly after high school. I knew I wanted to do real estate, so I went straight to our community college, took a 2-year associate's degree in real estate, and then at the same time I also became certified in property management. So I had gone straight into the education route of it, and from there did property management for a while and then jumped into sales. The most surprising thing to me was that I wasn't getting a paycheck immediately every 2 weeks or every month. So that was surprising, but I learned how to deal with that.
Bill?
Got into real estate based on family. That was my motivation. My daughter was 4 months old when I quit and transferred. So the 2-hour commute was less, but I needed to be immediately successful. And so that's what drove me to do it, and the most surprise is probably the amount of agents. There's 5 names that you recognize in a little area, but there's 50 of you that are also working and also there.
Okay, very good. And just to reiterate, they're all up here because they're all celebrating 5 years in the business. So I know there's some newer agents. Yeah, so they're here, they're still here after 5 years. No, but they're just doing an incredible job, and they've been increasing their business by triple-digit percentages year over year over the first 5 years. So there's a very specific reason, statistics-wise, why they're all up here. So I just want to reiterate that. So they're going to talk a lot about getting started, but then we're going to bring it all home when we start talking about why they're still successful today. And I think we can all learn from that for sure. So let's go ahead and start with the next question. We'll start with Bill this time. So Bill, would you consider yourself a natural self-promoter, or was that something you were uncomfortable with and had to learn?
The self-promotion part was not really natural. I had to learn that and be comfortable, self-bragging and doing shameless things on social media and getting those going. But self-driven I am. I wake up and I force myself to go to the office every day. I decided early to not sit on the couch and try and make it a part-time career. So I had that discipline, I guess, to get in there every day.
Very good. Heidi?
I would say that I am a self-promoter. I'm a social butterfly, so talking about my job and what I do is pretty easy and comes natural to me, so I would say I'm a self-promoter.
I concur, so she's good at it. Ann?
I would say I had to learn how to interject myself and had to come from a place of how can I help? That's how I gained the ability to be a self-promoter.
Okay. Shannon?
I would say I take more of a relationship approach to self-promotion. I don't walk around with a stack of business cards or, you know, try to make it too pushy. But if I'm going to my kid's game, I wear my RE/MAX shirt. I, you know, try to make it known to people that I'm in real estate without putting, you know, a billboard in front of them all the time.
So how did you first hear about RE/MAX and why did you choose to join? We'll start with Shannon this time.
Well, as I said, I already worked at a RE/MAX office, so I wasn't out looking for an office when I got into real estate. However, I did quickly realize that people, and I know the stat is 9 out of 10 people know what the RE/MAX balloon is, but that's really true. If I can have as simple as a balloon on my shirt, people know that's real estate. I don't have to say it or explain it, they just know that. And so I think that the brand is really valuable.
Okay. Ann, how about you? RE/MAX.
RE/MAX. My family members are part of RE/MAX, so for me it was a very obvious choice, and I was able to quickly become part of the RE/MAX family.
Okay, good. Heidi.
Let's see, I started out at a really small local company that no one had ever heard of, and I was showing a listing, and it was Lisa Bear's listing, and I noticed the sign, and I noticed her picture, and we were talking through an offer to purchase, and ultimately set up a meeting, and felt really good about that meeting, and signed up right away with them.
Okay, Bill.
I started with my office because the broker owner is a family friend. Obviously, the transition, that was somebody I trusted and wanted to go to for the advice. But the reason I've stayed with it is the brand. It's simple, the great technology, and it's recognized worldwide.
Okay, very good. I like hearing all of that. Okay, so this next one is, how did you, when you first got in real estate, how did you let your fans, you have fans now, your friends, family, and your network know that you are now in a position to help them with real estate? What steps did you take and what did you say? And we'll start with Bill on this one.
It was easy for me because I had my wedding list. I took my entire wedding list as a mailer and sent out kind of a Christmas card letter, one page with the Packer Badger schedule, and said, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is my big transition, and how can I help you?
That's fantastic. You can still do that today too.
I use it.
Yeah, absolutely. Heidi.
My sister was married at the time that I got into it, so I had all of my friends and family on the wedding list also. I mailed them a letter, and then seeing them throughout the year, I just made sure everyone knew what I was doing.
And now you have your own wedding list.
Yes, so now I have my own wedding list, so I have like multiple wedding lists.
Right, for sure. Ann.
Primarily got the word out through social media, having conversations with people, in general, just a really positive response, so it was easy to just have that be part of the conversation.
Okay.
Before I worked for RE/MAX, I owned a computer business, so I already had clientele that way, so I used those contacts as well as my Christmas card list. And so I did the same with the schedules, I sent those out. And a lot of social media for sure. I think, you know, especially my generation is really, you know, digital. So I did it a lot that way. And like I said before, you know, just started wearing my RE/MAX jacket all around town to all my kids' stuff, and it doesn't take long.
Now, I'm just going to ask them to expand a little bit more on this one. So I think maybe for the benefit of the audience, what were some of the specific things that you said, whether it was a social post, a letter, like how did you actually announce? Like what are some of the things that you said? And any of you can answer that. Yeah.
I remember specifically, we have a photo booth area in our office, and we were joking around one day. Lisa had me throw on the Santa hat and get in front of the photo booth and take a picture, and then I turned that into a mailer, seasonal mailer around Christmas, just letting everyone know this is where I am, this is where I'm working, and let me help you with your real estate.
Okay, very good. Anything else? Bill, anything?
Yeah, I continued the letter, and year after year I gave updates, and I joined, you know, started out on the team, then I went on my own, and just let everybody know that I was progressing, I was making an actual, you know, career out of it, and again, directly asked, how can I help you?
Very good.
I posted my headshot after I got it taken online, and you know, even if it's not necessarily immediately a lot of clients, it's all your family members and all your aunts and your husband's aunt saying, oh honey, you look so pretty, but you know, then you get 50 comments and then more people see it, so I think it's really important to Just put yourself out there and say, hey, I'm in real estate now. I made it really exciting, made it how excited I was about it. And again, have a direct call to action. Please call me. I can help you with real estate. I think it's important.
When I was getting the word out, I wanted to do a mailing to my neighbors and my direct community. And so I included a picture of myself and a picture of my dog because to my neighbors, maybe my dog is more recognizable than I am. But they see us on walks and they might not always recognize me, but they recognize the dog. So this was a way to say, hey, your neighbor's an agent. I'm here to talk about home values. I know the neighborhood, know the community, and just a way to tie things together.
All right, we'll start with Bill. What steps did you take to continue to build that sphere of influence, and particularly your database?
I kept very good records of the clients. I tried to stay in touch with them after the transaction and include them in my new mailers, my new database, as well as how I shopped. I switched going to the local gas station where nobody talked in line in the mornings, and I went to the coffee shop. And that was different for me, but to get recognized, to have 5 minutes in the coffee shop, having conversations in line was much more social and recognizable.
Yep, stay away from the drive-thru, right?
Yeah.
I like it. Heidi.
Okay, so building my sphere and database, I obviously set a goal to get at least 10 to 15 new contacts in your database a week. So however you can get new contacts, that's really important. A few tools that I use would be Facebook Messenger. If you need a way to reach out to people and don't have a phone number or an email, try looking for them on Facebook Messenger, reach out to them, ask them for their contact information. Also the tax bills in MLS. If you need to find someone or find an address, that's a huge resource. Again, adding that to your database. And then going to networking events and collecting business cards. That's a super easy way to grow your database.
Very good. Anne.
I also did a lot through networking, but also through joining different groups. So early on, I joined the Home Buyers Roundtable group in our community. This is a group that supports education for low to moderate income families. And so in that group, I was able to connect with a lot of lenders, a lot of inspectors, people within the city of Madison. And so building my business that way and adding to my database through groups like Home Buyers Roundtable, Habitat for Humanity, my local chamber group. That was my way of connecting and adding to.
Yeah, I agree with Anne. I really believe in relationship marketing, so I volunteer a lot, whether it's through church. I'm really involved with 4-H, and I get to know so many people through things that are not even related to real estate, but if you are showing up and you are helping out and you are responsible, people start to see you as someone they know, like, and trust, and that eventually translates into business.
Good. All right, the next question is, when you first got in real estate, what were some of the biggest challenges and maybe even some myths that you heard about being in real estate? So we're going to start with Anne. We're going to mix it up.
So one of the biggest challenges was just, again, going from this corporate setting that we talked about, getting paid every 2 weeks, to all of a sudden not having any money coming in. And I remember talking to somebody and they said, plan that you might not get a paycheck for 6 months. And I thought, no, that's not going to happen to me. I've got a big network. I've got a lot of people I can look at and lean on, and that'll happen much quicker. And then I started selling things in my house on Craigslist because it didn't take that long. So that was probably my biggest challenge was, okay, I really have to get motivated quickly, and I can't just rely on the fact that I do have a lot of people in my network and know a lot of people.
I think the biggest challenge for me was that, like I said, I owned a computer business, and so everyone and I'm in a small market, so everyone knew me as the computer girl. So it was hard for me to have people see me as the real estate girl, especially growing up there. The older people, I was their student or their babysitter, or so you really have to present yourself as a professional. And I did that through social media. I did that through joining groups in town, whether it's Rotary or Chamber, where I would be with a lot of those people that I knew when I was younger, but now they're seeing me as a business person, as more of like an accomplished woman and not as that kid from town. So I think it's just really important to be involved and be out there in your area and getting to know people that way.
Heidi?
I think the biggest myth, and the biggest struggle for me was that I was very young when I got into the business. So getting people to trust me and look at me like I knew what I was talking about, and that was difficult. But I used my knowledge and my confidence to, let people know that I really do know what I'm talking about. And using the fact that I have a team, in my office and everyone supporting me there, but just being young in the business and getting people to trust you.
Bill?
Personally, one of my biggest challenges was not buying all the shiny things. Everybody has something to sell you, and it doesn't always work. The balance of that is being creative, being new, and one of the shiny things actually working. So to me, it was focusing, budgeting, and choosing which route to go.
Okay. I did forewarn you guys, I put you on the spot, so here's a question you don't know. So how did all of you handle the sales mentality, meaning, or overcoming sort of the sales myths and stigma that's out there and becoming a salesperson? So Shannon, how did you handle that?
I think I always try to really get to know my clients on a personal level. I ask them about their kids and their dogs and their goals, and I like to get to know them that way so that they don't feel like I'm just in it for myself, trying to sell them a home. I want them to know that I do care, and I want their real estate purchase to really be something that makes them feel warm and fuzzy. I'm not just trying to be a car salesman chasing them in their car,
Okay, Ann?
So again, I go to that place of I'm here to help, and so that makes that process a lot easier for me. I'm not a natural salesperson. I'm not gonna, that's not my personality. But if I come at it as here I am, I'm here to help. And in this business, I think we also see a lot of people that maybe we feel like aren't properly representing their clients. So my thought is I want to help this person so that they're not in that situation. So that's what I do when I'm thinking about trying to promote myself or sales.
Okay, good. Heidi?
Yeah, I think my way of avoiding that is educating people and being a resource to them. So however I can educate them on the process or what they need to do to prepare themselves to buy or what they need to do to sell, being their resource to help them do that. I'm not very sales pushy at all either.
Bill?
Same thing. I've never focused, I'm fortunate. My wife has a great job, and I've never treated every transaction as just a paycheck. One of my first listings was a nice, young, successful person who was forced into a higher price point house by her agent. And she came to me for help. She said, I'm so house broke. I got talked into this by this agent. I was forced into it, and now I need out. And of course, the short turnaround, she was tight on the budget and the deadlines, and that stuck with me. I don't want my clients to ever go to somebody else and saying, I got stuck.
It's a great story. All right, so the next question that's actually on script, is when you first got your license, how did you actually go about learning the business besides the licensing courses? Did you have a mentor? Did you have a coach? Did you watch videos? What did you do? So we'll start with Bill on this one.
Yeah, I started on a team, learned a lot within the office. I volunteered with other agents that were not on the team. I attended open houses with them, picked their brain on what their separate strategies were, and then designations. I jumped in and started getting my GRI right away, and you get to hear speakers from nationwide. Mike Barker taught one of the classes, and he's telling you all these things from out east that we were not practicing in our local area, and you take one or two things of those away, and it's good for you.
Good. Heidi?
I did have a mentor my first year, just every day working with her. And then one thing that's really awesome about our brokerage is they do offer peak performer classes. So it's a way to stay on top of your business in all different aspects, from contract writing, role playing, tech apps and things like that, business planning, listening to different seminars and gurus and things like that. So we get peak performer classes, which are a huge benefit to us.
Very good. Ann?
When When I started working with a mentor that was part of our brokerage. And so we did daily things, worked on presentations, open houses, contracts. And then my second year in the business, I hired a coach through Tom Ferry. I've continued to work with my coach, and now I'm working as a coach for Tom Ferry as well. So I've got that network, and coaching others is an opportunity to constantly challenge myself in my own business as well.
I was already working in a real estate office, so I thought about this prior to getting my license. And when I got started, I just really tried to model myself after the agents who I worked with and who were in my office that I wanted to be like and that I enjoyed working with, and whose style that I liked. I did go to a lot of open houses at the beginning, to get going. I think that's a really great way to meet people and get started. And I think education is super important. All those emails that come from WRA, whatever, I read those. And I think it's just really important to be on top of what's happening in the market and what's new, what's changing. I go to convention. I always attend the RE/MAX events that are offered, because even if you don't feel like the whole thing was necessarily of value, you always take something back with you. So I think it's really important to put the effort into continuing to grow and change and get educated.
All right, so let's switch the conversation over to technology. So what role has technology played in your success? What systems, what apps, and what do you use on a daily basis? We'll start with Heidi on this one.
I love technology, and I use it a lot in my business. So it's a reason, I think, for my success too is, being on all the social media and using the apps and having your phone working for you 24/7. I do use the iPhone, iPad, laptop, cameras, my home office and my office. Both work off double screens, and I find that really helps with, getting stuff done a lot quicker and better. So a lot of different apps, and I'm on the RE/MAX Creative Facebook page, and it's been awesome with sharing information like that.
What are some of your favorite apps?
I use a lot of the social media apps, so Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Movevo, which is a movie editor, a lot of different ones. My phone's full of pages of apps.
Okay. Bill?
I'm opposite. I do not like technology. So number one to me is the Google Drive. I create my own spreadsheets. I know where my lock boxes are, I know where my clients are, I know past, present sales. All of that is in Google Drive for me and to look up. But other than that, your social media is great. Don't have CRM on that either.
You will soon.
Yes.
That's right. Shannon?
I'm completely opposite. I love technology, and I am very unorganized. Truly, I don't ever delete an email, because to me, that's what email's for. I can search for a word that I remember in that email, and it will bring it to me. I'm not going to waste my time putting it in a folder, and that's just how I roll. But Dan apparently speaks to that too. I know I have the skills to retrieve the information when I need it, so I don't waste my time organizing it. I really like Snapseed for pictures. I use that for all of my, my Just Sold, Just Listed. That's the one I like the best for that. I like RPR for CMAs. I'm not a big fan of MLS CMAs, so I don't use that. Because I'm more of a tech person, I do, like to Photoshop and do things like that. But for the most part, I just edit my photos on my phone. And I do actually use Design Center a lot. We use Design Center when I really need to make a quick flyer, things like that. I can do that in 30 seconds and be out the door. So I do use Design Center, truly, I do.
I had to get a plug in there for some RE/MAX tech.
I was going to say, I just used Design Center for an email template the other day. So another one of my favorite apps is BombBomb. I use BombBomb for videos. I just recently had a client that was out of town. They signed a counteroffer, and then I could shoot a quick video to say, hey, just want to let you know it's official, congratulations, you've got the house, and It just feels different than a text or an email. I also really enjoy Prompt as part of BombBomb, and that is a feature that I can reach out to my database every month with a quick message. BombBomb writes it for me, they put together all of the links, and I just record it. So that's one of my favorite technology tools.
And the analytics.
And the analytics.
Yeah, everyone knows BombBomb records open rates and play rates and all that kind of cool stuff that we love, right?
Yeah, after I've sent a message, it'll give me, these are your top 5 people to follow up with that are you most engaged.
Good.
Usually my mom's on there.
Oh, okay, that's good. All right, thanks. All right, so any questions? I'm just curious coming in.
Just the one private Photify, the new Remax branded Photify.
Yes.
Just said they love it. So.
Okay, somebody
And
gave
I love it. I use it.
Photify got a shout out, so thank you, virtual audience, for that one. All right, so let's continue on with marketing, and let's talk a little. Let's get more specific now. So, what types of marketing are you actually doing besides online? What are you doing in print? What are you doing in the community? Are you part of networking groups? What specifically are you doing? And please share any marketing fail stories as well. So we'll start with Shannon on this one.
Great. I'm in a new office, and we are really a community relationship-based office. So we do a lot of social media, a lot of Instagram, a lot of Facebook, doing a lot of video. Video is what engages people. We get so much more activity on video than we do on anything else. And no one wants to be on video, but truly when you do a video, no one's really thinking about what you look like. You are, but they aren't. So getting a lot more comfortable with that. I like to still do old school cards to people. I had a friend tell me about someone they knew that had to relocate about a month ago. I wrote them a note, said, hey, a friendly neighbor told me, they called me, I listed the household in one day. So, I think sometimes just that effort of that handwritten note, I think that still definitely does have value. We like to really communicate with other businesses in town. So giving away something to a different business in town, telling people about things that are our favorite. All of our marketing doesn't necessarily have to be, do you want to buy a house? It can just be, wow, these people know everything about the community and they're really involved in the community and we want to go to the expert. And that's what I think it's important to let people know that you are.
On those videos, Shannon, what specific type of videos? It sounds like you're doing things in the community, but what else are you doing that's working for you?
So we hold events at our office just to get people comfortable with coming in and seeing us. So one thing that we do is we have story time, and I bring my friendly golden retriever, and my broker is the most fabulous storyteller you ever could ask for, and the little kids are just so engaged with her, and that's like the biggest thing in our office. I'm at the grocery store, they're like, when is story time gonna be? They're just so worried about story time and how my dog is, and so connecting with people on a superhuman level, and then when story time is over, we make a video of it, and then everybody loves to see that, and they love to see their kids and share it with their family to see their kid at story time. So really, not just doing the events, but also taking the time to do the video of the event and the pictures of the event, I think is really important too. Because if you're doing it but no one knows you're doing it, what's the point?
Absolutely. Thank you. Anne?
I'll start with some marketing failures, and where that has been is when I just don't do things consistently or when I dabble in it. For me, some of that has been direct mail. I like the idea of it. I think it has a place, but if you don't do it consistently, you might as well, spend your money elsewhere. So that hasn't been a real strength for me. Most of my marketing is social media, videos, and networking. As I mentioned before, I'm in a lot of different groups where people just see me as, yep, Anne's the real estate agent in our group, and that's what my goal is. I've also had some success in door knocking, and I know that every time you say door knocking, people are like, oh God, I don't want to do it, it's hard, people are mean, it's all of those things. And At one point, I had several buyers that wanted to buy in a specific neighborhood. And so I knew I needed to do some door knocking to see if I could find them a house, because all the houses were being sold in 2 days. And so I needed to do something different. And so when I was thinking about, how do I really embrace door knocking, I was thinking about Mike and Frank from American Pickers. Everybody knows Mike and Frank, right? So what do Mike and Frank do? Every time they go somewhere and they're gonna pick, they have a flyer. And I always think, like, why do they have a flyer? Everybody knows what they're there for. I mean, the flyer says they want bikes and motorcycles and whatever, but everybody knows that they're there to pick through their junk. But so what I decided to do was create a flyer and say, I've got buyer number 1 that is looking for 3 bedrooms, hardwood floors, price point's $250. I've got buyer 2 looking for this, 2-car garage, price point $275, whatever it was. So then when I door knocked, I had the flyer, so I could at least say, hey, I just wanted to let you know, I've got several buyers looking at your neighborhood. Here's what we're looking for. Just like Mike and Frank. Kind of. I did get a buyer and seller that day too.
That's fantastic, thank you. Heidi.
Okay, so for marketing, each year I do a marketing plan, January through December, and I change it up quarterly if I need to, but I'm pretty consistent every year on what I do. So sending out the Packer schedules and the Brewer schedules are super important to my clientele. I'm on their refrigerator all year long, and they're excited to get those. So that's been really consistent. And then throughout the other months, I fill in with pop buys, I run Facebook ads, I send out mass text messages, I go through my phone and I'll chunk out like A's and B's and, contact them one month, D's, C's, E's the next month, and just make sure I'm touching people over and over and over again. And then we host a lot of events, so being consistent on every year, making sure you have a couple events that you can invite people to. We do a chili cook-off every year, which is a huge turnout, and it's free lunch. And then we have a SNOLF event, which is snow golf, and we get tons of people. It's open up to the community, so yes, you're inviting all your past clients, you're inviting your friends and family, but it's also out there to the community, so you can have this original event at the local golf course, and it's awesome. It's a huge hit. It's golfing in the winter. So there is a bunch of different events that we put on throughout the year, and just inviting people to those and following up and making sure you're seeing them face to face, not just online also. And just to add to that is, I follow my marketing plan very well throughout the whole year, but throughout each quarter, it's nice to bounce ideas off of other people in your office too. For example, Chris Burkle, she sends out a paper, full-size paper article, and works really well for her. So seeing the different ideas that different agents do, it makes you think, okay, should I try something like that, or will it not work in my area? So bouncing ideas back and forth for marketing.
Okay, thanks. Bill.
Like everybody, you try it all. Do mailers, door knocking, open houses, all that fun stuff, but I find them more successful when it's specific. I door knock because I have one buyer or I need one place in the neighborhood, and I have gotten that transaction. But when I door knock to a random neighborhood without a goal or a specific goal with one client in mind, it just doesn't seem to work as well. And then the natural stuff, when you can relate to people with the dog, with your kid, when it is something a little more personal, you get a lot more reactions, you get natural interaction, relationship with those people, and it tends to be a more genuine client.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Something else I wanted to add, I think it's really important to support local organizations and like the schools and things like that. When kids come and ask you for a donation, I think that stuff really does pay off, because their parents are going to be grateful. The kids on that team are going to know you. So I think it's really important to support, depending on your market obviously, but if you're a small town, it's really important to support local organizations so that they want to support you back.
So for those of you out there, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, even in the virtual audience, when it comes to door knocking, it can be very intimidating. It can make you come across like a door-to-door salesman, right? So I want to ask the panel to share, what are some of the things that you actually say when people actually open the door? And I think all of you are probably wondering as well, what works for you, and maybe what are some best practices, such as what do you say, what time of day or what day of the week do you actually do this? So Anne, we'll start with you, and if anyone else wants to jump in.
Sure. So time of the day, the best time to door knock is when you're going to do it. So I think sometimes 4:30, 5 o'clock, weekends, whatever it may be. I don't think there's a naturally great time that you're going to reach people. What do you say? Again, having that flyer help to say these are specific people that are looking to buy in your neighborhood. Who do you know that might be selling, or do you have any interest in selling? Another strategy that I've been working with is to, if I have a property that has an accepted offer, is to tell the story about how we got the accepted offer. So I've got a flyer that says, okay, we did this to get the house marketed, and then this is how we marketed it, and this is all the likes that we got on Facebook and on Instagram, and these are the number of people that we reached through the process, and all of that in a high traffic open house resulted in an offer in 3 days, multiple offers, over list price, whatever it may be. So again, just telling that story is easier than, hey, do you have any interest in selling your house? Or telling that story to say, multiple people want to live in your neighborhood, at what price would you be a seller? Or have you had any interest in selling? So those are just some of the strategies I've worked towards.
Okay. Heidi, anything you want to add? You haven't tried that yet, have you?
Not too much, a little bit in my personal neighborhood.
Okay. Yeah. Bill?
And just something to leave. Even people are home or not home, they're not going to answer the door, a majority of them. So if you can leave something, they follow up. We did Flag Day one year, and we had little yard flags with a note from us, our contact info, and we got a lot of response. There was a lot of positive, hey, I got your flag, thank you so much.
Thank you for that. Okay, so let's talk about referrals versus newly generated business. So what percentage of your business is referrals versus newly generated now versus when you first started? And please elaborate on that topic. So we'll start with Bill on this one.
Referrals are key. I mean, I'd say 80% of my business somehow comes referred to me, whether it's from a lender, a past client, family, someone. And naturally that comes with being longer in the business, the more you do, but they're very much needed. And then to stay in touch, I just keep track. I mean, document who you sold that to, what their new moving address was, or what the home they bought was, and follow up.
When you first got in the business, Bill, how was that percentage, new versus referrals?
At least 50-50, if not more. Spend a lot of money on random Zillow marketing leads, looking for people to capture some of the volume, because we do have a very competitive market with some top agents that I get passed by, even though I knew people, they were going with a more seasoned person.
And at what point in your 5 years did you stop buying the leads?
I still buy leads.
Still buy leads, okay. All right, thank you. Heidi?
I would say that like 90% of my business is referrals, and when I started it was probably 50-50 also. The new clients, a lot came from open houses, so meeting them in person and getting their information in person so that when I followed up they knew who I was and I wasn't just a voice on the phone. So that was how I gained a lot of customers and clients in the beginning, was open houses. Now a lot of it just comes from follow-up to my past clients and following my marketing plan to stay in front of them and just make sure I'm the one that they call when they need something.
Good. Anne?
85% of my business is from referrals from my SOI. And that stayed pretty consistent, where the rest of the 15% has changed a little bit. Some of that used to be Zillow leads. It's always been some open houses, and now more agent-to-agent referrals as well.
I have no idea what percentage, because I don't keep track of things like that. But I would say at the beginning the same. Open houses for sure, being involved with the community and getting out there, until people really saw me as a real estate agent. Now I would say yes, definitely, mostly referrals, but I think the important thing is staying in touch with those people and inviting them to events. Yes, I do think that's really important. And I felt like when I was buying Zillow leads, it was way more time wasting than it was things that actually panned out. So I don't buy leads anymore, because when I did, it was so minimally successful and more frustrating.
Bill said something key. Did you notice he said he gets referrals from lenders? Wow, imagine how many realtors in that community that lender works with. That says a lot for you. So do you do anything special, or when it comes to your preferred partners and referrals?
No, every lender comes around, takes you to lunch, and you find who's a good fit and who's a good not fit, but also being able to read your client. If I have an 80-year-old VA gentleman, I know which lender he can go to that will work well, and that same lender might not work for a younger professional female. So matching them up with the correct lender that they're actually going to follow through comes both ways. They know the type of client that would work well with me, and it goes that way.
Very good. Okay.
Can I just add to that?
Yes, please.
I also get a lot of referrals from lenders, and I think it's important to stay in touch with your lenders and to periodically call them and say, I really enjoyed working on this transaction with you. Who do you have that's pre-approved that I could help? So asking for the business.
I agree with that, and I think too, when you choose your preferred lender, it's important to choose one that you know is going to help your business as well. I might have a lender that I love working with, but I know he's never going to give me a referral. So in the end, you might need to realize that isn't mutually beneficial. You need to make sure that your referrals are to people who are going to use you as well.
One more thing that works with lenders too is set a goal together. Hey, let's do 3 transactions a quarter together, or let's do 1 a month together, 1 every 6 months. If you set a goal with them, you're both working towards the same thing.
So lead generation versus administrative activities and tasks. That's the $1 million question for all of you, right? So we're going to ask this panel now, how do you prioritize prospecting and lead gen over administrative tasks? What do you do? What works and what doesn't? So we'll start with Shannon.
I think sometimes they do cross over, but I'm not one to spend a ton of time on administrative. I would spend more time on marketing, social media, things like that. Like I said, I don't spend a lot of time getting organizing and having systems, and that's just not who I am. Ginger can attest that if I leave for too long, she cleans my desk, because that's just I don't think that benefits my business during my day. However, she thinks much more clearly if her stuff is all organized. So everyone's going to have their different way of doing things. But I like to spend my time definitely a lot more on marketing and lead generation. And the administrative part, I feel like I do what's necessary, but I don't spend a lot of time on the fluffy administrative stuff.
So, of course, it's a balance to do both, and what I do is time block so that I have specific time that's dedicated to administrative work, lead generation, and I think it's important to do prospecting in the morning, and so that you get it done, and so that you don't leave it until the afternoon. So time blocking I guess would be my answer to that.
I also agree with that, time blocking. In the first 2 years, I did not time block. I didn't have plans set in place. I had goals in my head, but not written down. So putting that all into perspective and treating this like a true business, this is your business. So you have to have those, maybe not Shannon, but you have to have those processes set in place so that you see them and you do it. The lead generation, I'm really big on social media, but I sit down for an afternoon and I pre-plan all my posts, and then I sprinkle in live posts in between the pre-planned posts so that I'm not spending every day posting on social media. And then also with the administrative part, we are very lucky in our office. We have amazing brokers, and Jamie created a profit and loss spreadsheet that's absolutely amazing, so that you can track your expenses, your income, your goals, and know where your numbers are at any point. You can pull pull that up and look at it. So that's really huge, and just updating that once a month is fine. I have an accountability partner in my office, so knowing that every month we've updated what's been going on and just keeping that available so that when we need to see those numbers, they're there for us.
Good. Bill?
I like admin. I like my drive spreadsheets and knowing where everything's at, where it's from. So I try, and first thing I do after my coffee is sit at the office. I sit there for an hour, hour and a half, and plug in all the stuff, the data that I need to keep track of. And then I can go back and review it. Everything's got a filter, so I know who I did with, including down to the lender. I know exactly which lender I closed with, how many deals at any time. And you can see where if you need 5 more deals at the end of the year, what have you been slacking on? Have I not been taking my lenders out? And I can hold myself accountable for that.
Very good. So you mentioned that you do this every day. Is it a specific time, and do you block that out in your calendar?
It's not blocked out, but yes, I tend to do it first thing in the morning. The office is quiet, I get there right away, and I have that focus time to myself to get it done.
Did everyone notice he said he goes to the office, by the way? And I know it's easy to get caught up in your lives and you want to work from home, and sometimes you have to, and that's fine. But 5 years later, Bill's still going to the office. I mean, I imagine it gives you, put yourself in that business mindset, right?
I have to. I did not do laundry this week. It's so far behind. But had I been home, that's what would have happened. I would have not been able
Been
to
doing laundry.
run the business.
Right, for sure. For the rest of the panel, do you actually schedule time for lead generation activities or admin or both? Yeah? What do you do, Heidi?
I just time block. I make sure that, honestly, it's on my phone, it's scheduled. When I pull up my calendar for the day, I have time blocks set in there.
Okay.
I'm sure you'll be surprised to know that I do not time block. But I feel like I need to defend myself a little bit. I have like a memory that it's like those people that are at Oprah where I know what I ate for breakfast on March 3rd, 2001. So that's why I don't do a lot of that stuff, because I can remember it. And that's sometimes really annoying. But I think real estate is just so fluid, and I like to be really available. So I'm not one to be a real big stickler on, okay, I'm going to do this from this time to this time. I'm super flexible, and I'm not set in stone on that. But I do think it's important to keep track, as far as we use a point system in our office of, okay, so how many people did you take out for coffee this week? How many people did you text this week? That type of tracking, I think, is really beneficial and keeps me on task of doing all those things. But as far as day-to-day goes, I don't specifically set aside time for certain types of activities.
One of the things that I try to do is, if I'm working on a specific project, I truly believe that a project will take as much time as you give it. So before I really get into it, I try to say, okay, I'm revamping my listing presentation. This really should only take me 45 minutes. And then I will set a timer on my phone to go off in 40 minutes to be like, okay, now I gotta wrap this up and move on to the next thing, because otherwise it'll take me 3 hours.
So, all right, so we kind of alluded to some of this earlier, but what methods or tools do you use for goal setting and business planning and profit and loss? And what are some tips maybe for yourself and for the audience on just maintaining a profit, or at least knowing you're making a profit? We know you don't have a sheet for that. Yeah. So yeah, exactly. We'll start with Bill.
Know what you're spending. Signing up for 6 months of something and it comes out every month, you need to know what you are spending every month and don't go into debt. I tried really hard in the beginning to not buy new signs until I had enough money in my business account to buy signs. I didn't go the route. I didn't know it wasn't a very stable market when I started, and you don't know how much you're going to make, so I didn't want to be upside down from the beginning. And sticking within your budget has helped.
Anything in the way of business plans or business planning?
Yeah, I modeled a couple agents in the area that I thought were obtainable peers that I wanted to be like. I ran their MLS numbers on what they were doing, how they were doing, and that helped me set an obtainable goal for myself.
Good, thank you. Heidi?
I spend a lot of time November and December looking at my business plan, auditing my business plan, auditing my marketing plan, seeing what worked and didn't work. The biggest thing for me too was setting a budget when I got into the business, knowing my personal budget, knowing how much to pay myself, knowing, you know, okay, if this is my goal, my business should make this amount of money. Well, I'm not going to drain my business account. I need to just pay myself as an employee of my account. So, you know, doing a lot of business planning that way. I also took the Take Flight program through RE/MAX about 2 years ago, and that sets you up for success. I mean, that helps you create your business plan, helps you create your marketing plan, and that was huge. So I really appreciated that. We've got the profit and loss spreadsheet that I work off of monthly, and maintaining the profit. I have a hot sheet, and on my hot sheet, I work out of it every single day. And the top is my hot buyers, hot sellers, and then I have a warm list. So that's a continuously changing document every single day that I look at. And it's got my projected commission, my projected income, how much can I make if I close all those, if someone moves from the hot buyer to the warm buyer, how often do I have to follow up with them? So having that sheet and looking at it every single day is just gonna help you continue to wanna keep going.
Every year I complete a business plan. It's with the Tom Ferry group. So I've got the business plan, my coach has it. We're continuing to check in on it throughout the year. And then I track my expenses and my income through QuickBooks. It took me quite a while to get to this point where I realized I had to get a better system in place. And QuickBooks has been absolutely amazing. It took some time to pull it together, but it's helped me to set a budget so that when somebody calls me and says, hey, I'm going to get you on the front page of Google, it's only going to cost you this much, I can quickly say, no, I've already tried that, it doesn't work. But no, I can say what I have in my budget or what I don't have in my budget. So not only do I do that through QuickBooks, but then I also run a P&L statement every month, and I share that with my coach. And really, it's just the act of pulling it together and sharing it with somebody else. And then, you know, I might make a few comments about it. He doesn't necessarily have questions about it, but it just builds in that accountability that I'm going to pull it every month. So then at tax time, I'm not sitting on my office floor with stacks of receipts saying like, what was this for and how do I account for this? I'm doing it more real time.
Do you want to pass on this one?
No, not completely. I do put receipts all in one spot, and so you know, I kind of organize them, right? I use an Excel spreadsheet just to keep everything, you know, in there, and I like to relate it to each listing so that I can remember, or listing or purchase, you know, what dollars I spent on that, and then I can kind of look at that and say to myself, you know, did that listing sell? Was that worth it? You know, so I do a little bit that way, just simply with Excel, just because I don't like to spend a lot of time entering data that doesn't necessarily, you know, gain anything for me.
All right, so speaking of expenses, we're going to ask the panel next, what do you actually outsource in the way of services? Photography, videography, drone, what is it that you're doing for your listings and yourself, and what do you outsource? So we'll actually start with Heidi on this one.
All right, based on my business plan, again, I have a budget set aside every year. I really only outsource my interior, exterior listing photos and drone photos and my sign installation. Other than that, I pretty much do the rest.
And videos and everything. Nice. All right. Bill?
Also really bad at delegating. So the only thing I do assign out is photography. I'm not good at it, I don't have the right equipment, and there's somebody local that I can pay to do a much better job and take that time off my task list.
Very good.
I'm outsourcing photography, staging, some marketing, and then also I have a virtual assistant.
Definitely photography. I think it's really important, like in my office, we all try to offer our skills that we're really great at to each other. So like the ladies in my office are amazing stagers and they have all this great stuff, and we share you know, our networking of staging things with each other and with our clients, let anybody use anything they want to use. I will in turn, I'm happy to make videos and do things for them that they don't like to do. So I think it's really important to work with a team of people that work well together and to share your skills with each other. I do paper photography. We have someone who does all the signs for our office, so I'm not out hanging up signs or any of that.
Let's get into specific costs. So if you could compare, and I just want you to know, you may have to ballpark it, what you spent on marketing year one versus just this past year, can you give us a general idea how that shifted or if it shifted at all? So Bill, can you share on that?
Yeah, it's increased significantly as the business grows and I have more of a budget. I put that back into the business and spend a lot more per month.
Do you spend on photography, is it per shoot or do you have them on retainer? Or?
No, it's per shoot. And
Okay.
it depends on distance and this time of year, daylight. I mean, if they have to do specific times versus how flexible you are, I mean, there is a inconvenience fee that can be tacked on, as well as the size of the house. I also pay for them to go back during the seasons. I'm not having all mine being snow seasons, so we pay twice.
Okay. And how did you find your photographer?
Personal reference is somebody I know.
Okay. Good.
And we tried other routes, and it's just a learning curve like it is with anybody. But we gave him the MLS specs. This is what the photos have to be, and he's good. I mean, it took a year to get there, but I don't have to be there. He professional, lets himself in, does the photos, and I've never had a complaint.
And approximately how much per shoot? Let's say it's just a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, not a luxury.
$200 plus or minus.
$200 per shoot. Okay, thank you. Heidi?
I think mine's like 125 per shoot, and then drones are around $200. So it's pretty consistent with what everyone else is charging. My photographer is actually through the sign company, so it's like a second business that they run, and then they have a bunch of photographers available. So again, I don't have to be there either if I don't want to be, and it just seems to be a time saver and it works well.
Okay. Ann?
My photographer is my brother, but he does have professional equipment, and this is a side business for him. So that works out well. I pay him about $150, and then again, depending if there's retakes, and I have the ability to boss him around and tell him when his pictures are too dark and all those things. So it's a great match. Let's see, I think there was a second part to that question. Oh, budget. So I feel like my marketing budget, I guess I don't have numbers in front of me to say how much it's changed since year one or year two to now, but what I would say is that it's a lot more focused. As I mentioned before, I remember that first year in the business, getting calls from everybody to say, hey, we're gonna increase your visual presence, and we're gonna get you on the front page of Google, and we're gonna do all these things. And I was just like, wow, I know I need some visibility. I think I'll try this. And I was just throwing money at some things that didn't make sense, that probably forced me to sell more things on Craigslist. So, so I think it's just much more focused now, and I know where I want to put money and where I don't, and I can quickly respond to those calls.
Shannon?
I think with the photography, I think it's really important to give all of your listings the same treatment, whether it's a $100,000 house or a $500,000 house. I want someone to know if they list with me, the photos are going to look nice, and they're going to have the same style, so that every time I'm posting or doing a flyer or anything, it is the same vibe, the same feel. And we do that throughout our whole office, not just me. I think that's really important to be consistent, and so that people know what product they're getting when they choose you. And we spend about $125 a shoot.
I was just going to add to that I just recently listed a property that was a for sale by owner, and they decided that they couldn't make a go of it, and so they decided to hire me to list the property. And I was telling him about the next steps of the process, and I said, then my professional photographer will come and take photos, and he said, oh, I have photos. Yeah, I've seen them. Yeah. So again, it doesn't matter what the property is. It all deserves beautiful photography.
Very good. What's the question?
The question's from Mary Thompson, and it's for everybody, but it says, what are you having your virtual assistants do?
My virtual assistant is primarily doing transaction coordination. So as soon as I have an accepted offer, she's taking it from there. She's making sure that everybody has copies of the documents. She's putting together the timeline. She's sending an email to everybody in the transaction. and then she's keeping track of the timeline. So a lot of times I'm doing the reach out to say, okay, where are we with inspection or appraisal, but she's also tracking those dates. She asks for weekly communication with lenders. She schedules closings. She makes sure that we get the closing disclosure ahead of time, reviews it. She pulls all transactions into DocuSign, makes sure that they're in there, follows up with me about what things I need to do.
And is that a per transaction? Or?
It is per transaction cost.
Okay.
Mhm.
Would you mind sharing?
I think it's about $200 a transaction.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Right. Anyone else have anything to add on that? Any thoughts of hiring a virtual assistant or a assistant from the rest? No?
Changed my whole business.
Yeah.
And when I thought about hiring a virtual assistant, I thought, I don't know that anybody can do it as well as I can. And I quickly learned that not only could she do it as well as I could, but she could do it better. So I did have the opportunity to write template emails, so she uses those emails so they sound like they're coming from me, but she does it way better than I do. So that's one of the best decisions I made in my business.
We at our office we use Loop, and I think it's really important to eliminate a lot of that busy work, paperwork, files, forms. You don't need all that. Just keep it all organized in one place on the internet so you can get to it wherever you are. And don't spend so much time filling out paper forms and files and systems. That doesn't add any money to your business. And I understand sometimes it's hard because you've been in the business really long time and that's how you always did it. But in today's world, that's just not necessary. Just put it in a folder online and go have coffee with a client.
What was your moment of realization where you thought, hey, I'm going to make it in this business and I'm going to be in it a long time? So let's start with Shannon on this one.
I think when you're first starting out, you're comparing yourself to the other agents, probably mostly in your office, who've been in the business a really long time, and they just seem to endlessly have lead after lead, and you feel like that's never going to be you. But I would say about a year into business, I had 6 closings scheduled for 1 month, and that was kind of the point when I realized, okay, now I'm that person that I wanted to be. But I use those other people in my office to keep me motivated. The other agents in my office, I don't want to be the weak link. I want to be, it's a healthy, competition. I want to be able to go to the staff meeting and tell them I have this and this and this, and I don't want to just sit there quietly while they all talk about what they have going on. So I think it's really important to keep that competitive fire, because that to me is what keeps me going and makes me feel successful.
Anne?
I think there's always moments of self-doubt and just reflection of, why didn't I get that listing, or why did that buyer not choose me? And I've really tried to embrace that and look for ways to change that, or maybe not change it, but counteract that. So I would hear something about, well, this person had this in their listing presentation and that's why we went with them. And I think, okay, there's a better way for me to do this, or there's a better way for me to articulate this to prospective sellers, and to try and really hone that. And then I think when I felt like I've kind of made a name for myself is when I heard that other people in our industry knew who I was, or were talking about me, to say, oh yeah, I heard Anne, she was doing an education session and she's part of this group, or whatever it may be. That's where I felt like, okay, I'm making a mark.
Thanks. Heidi?
Let's see, self-doubt comes when you have a transaction that is going south and you're like, what's going on? But just knowing that is where you're going to learn and grow is when the time gets tough and you might be doubting yourself on how the transaction's going. But that is the best learning curve right there. And then knowing when I feel like I'm being successful throughout the business is obviously tracking the numbers and seeing the numbers, double and triple as you're going through the first 5 years. And yes, to piggyback on you, just knowing that you're getting calls, hey, you helped my sister, help me now, or hey, just the referral basis, it makes you feel good.
Bill?
Self-doubt right away. One of the first things I thought was I was going to have all kinds of time split at home and I bought myself a flip house. I could work on this house on the side, and it'll supplement my income, and I had zero time for both. I stayed busy just trying to make all of this happen. And then one of the bigger turning points of feeling successful, though, is saying no. Between year 2 and 3, I had a client that was not a good fit, and in the past I would have done anything to make that continue to happen because I was scared of losing a closing for that month, and being able to say no, passing them up, and that was a turning point for me.
I asked each of them to come up with a really funny story in real estate that's happened to them along the way. So let's start with Bill on this one.
I didn't go with funny. You said funny, pleasant, positive.
I did, okay.
And with the positive, I had a client year 3 who showed up at an 8 a.m. closing in his tie and suit, and I asked where his wife was, and he said we had a baby about 3 hours ago.
Wow.
I said, why are you here? Yeah. And he said, it's kid 4. I mean, kid 4 is fine. But I said, we need her signatures. We need her signatures, and we grabbed the closer in the title company. We went to the hospital, and she was, of course, perfect in bed and signed away, and
wow.
That's how we went.
That's both funny and pleasant and positive. Thanks. Heidi.
So I was showing like a farm property, a beautiful property, 6 acres, farmhouse, outbuildings, and the couple, it was a beautiful day. We were all enjoying it. So we outside showing it, get inside, house is great. Final spot we have to go down to is the basement. So we get down in the basement, we're looking at the mechanicals, and then we get over to the storage area, and there's like a 6-foot snake in the basement. And I scream, and I have a phobia, and I run out the house. The lady's following back behind me, ran out the house, out the front door, and the husband comes out, and it's like, nope, they did not buy that house. So I think my phobia cost me a sale, but it was pretty funny too, just screaming and running around like crazy people.
No,
It wasn't.
it was like a live snake in the basement.
Set it on fire.
Lots of cats freaked me out, but never a snake. One pleasant story that I had is that I was representing sellers on a property, and right before closing, we hear from the buyer's agent that the buyers, which are a young couple, that he was going to propose right after closing. And so they did the final walkthrough, and then we had to coordinate it so that then he could get back into the house, and with flowers and a sign and all of these things. So then right after closing, then they could go back to the house, and that would all be there, and then he would propose. So we coordinated all of that, and it was great. But what was really tough is at closing, we all knew it was going to happen. So and we were so nervous about possibly saying something that it was like the quietest closing ever. We were just like, just don't say anything. So because everybody except for her knew. So she was probably like, wow, closings are kind of cold, and it was great.
That's great.
I definitely can't top that. That's good. I had a client, a mutual friend of mine, was actually doing the hair of a person who was eventually my client, and she was saying how they bought their house right before the market crashed in 2006. They knew they were upside down on it. They have a 2-year-old. They want to have another baby, and they just hated this house and wanted to get out into something newer and something that had a floor plan that made a lot more sense for a young family. She said, you should just really talk to my friend Shannon. And so she came over and talked to me, and I ended up finding them a buyer right away. Actually, my broker Adrian found them a buyer right away. And then they bought one of her listings. So we kind of made that work, and it went from this conversation to closing in about 40 days. And then they told me at the closing they were pregnant with their second baby, and they were so excited because now they were going to have the room for the baby, and they were, they weren't as upside down as they thought. They ended up walking away with just a very small amount, but it wasn't the negative amount that they thought, and I was just able to help them figure out how to get the most for that house. And because when they were trying to sell it online as a for sale by owner, it wasn't selling. They didn't realize how much more they could get for the house if they marketed it properly.
Tell us a story of a major challenge that you faced, that you overcame, and the steps that it took to overcome it, and basically how it resolved itself. So we'll start with Shannon on this one.
The options feel endless, but I had a situation where the people were divorcing and they both moved out of state, and so no one was living at the house, and they both thought the other one was secretly coming back and stealing things from the house, and they then had all these crazy things where she would move and not tell him so that he couldn't find her. I mean, it was like something you would see in a movie. And I was trying to navigate both of them throughout this. So in the end, when we came to closing, luckily I represented the buyer too, so I was able to like 3-ring circus everything. And in the end, she was supposed to FedEx the deed for the closing, and she did not. So I was in a state of panic, thinking now this isn't going to close, the buyers are here, we're at the title company, and all of a sudden they showed up holding hands and she had the deed. So it was so bizarre. And then after the closing was over, she said to me, so did you just send the proceeds check to the lender? And I was like, you'll have to talk to the attorney about that, because he had taken the proceeds check and left already. And I thought, you know what, this is closed, this is not my thing to navigate anymore, so I just let them go on their way. And also, she was really worried about her stack of magazines that she thought that he took, so my coworker Ginger went with me and we dug through the recycling and got all her magazines back.
Wow.
The things you do, right? So that reminds me of a transaction that I had that the whole thing was very complicated, and it was again a situation where sellers were getting divorced and weren't really on the same page, and I was working with a buyer that was getting some down payment assistance, and so we had a lot of extra steps in our process, and every step seemed to take a really long time. But so finally closing's here. We're getting to the closing table, and we do final walkthrough, and we get there, and seller hasn't moved out. All of his stuff is still there, and he's there. And we say to him, so what's going on? And he's just, it was too overwhelming for him. So the listing agent was really great, and she got a truck, and she got some people, and she and I helped move. It was a painful process. So, but I had to send my client and say, okay, you need to go get a cup of coffee, go, somewhere for a while, we're gonna figure this out, and we did actually close that day, and by the end of the day, he was officially moved out, and I had gotten in my workout.
How big of a house was it?
It was, like a 3-bedroom house.
Wow.
And, lots of stuff.
Lots of stuff.
All right, there's a lot of challenges that happen throughout transactions, so I feel like we all just have a lot to tell you about. But I'll just do a short and sweet one. I sold a condo, and we were doing the final walkthrough, and all the furniture was out, it was empty, but in the master bedroom was like the biggest stain on the carpet that we've never seen, because the bed was over it, but it was ginormous, need all new carpet in there. So, last minute, an hour or two before closing, how are you gonna handle that, and what kind of credits will be given and things like that. So just remaining calm, but knowing that at the last minute, something could happen.
Opposite of my birth story, I had a gentleman come to me terminally ill, and he did not want his family to get any of it. He wanted his house sold before he passed. And I had the adult children not happy with him or myself, and that going on during the transaction. We listed appropriately, his house had its own challenges, but found him a cash buyer. And about 10 days before the closing, we get a call from ICU and says his dying wish is to get up here and get this house closed. So we did. We grabbed the title company, we went up there, he signed it, and he passed within 48 hours.
Wow.
That's a tough one.
You go to the hospital a lot.
Two hospital stories.
Two opposite ends.
If you could go back to day one in real estate, what 2 or 3 things would you do differently, and versus, now that you know what you know in the business? So we'll start with Ann on this one.
Okay, I have 4.
Okay.
So my 4 things would be create a plan, create a budget, have an accountability partner, and prospect every day.
Very good. All right. Heidi.
Honestly, those would be my 4 things also. Seriously, I can't even think of any better answers than that. My first year, I did not set aside money for taxes. So I learned the very, very hard way that if you do not have your budget in place and your plan in place, there could be some big surprises at the end of the year. So that would be huge, my number 1.
Bill?
Be yourself. Don't be neutral, but don't be as neutral. You attract clients that are similar to you, same hobbies, same interests, and you work better with those clients. If you get that relationship started with somebody that likes fishing or whatever your interest is, it tends to be a better transaction and a repeat client for life.
Very good. Shannon?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's really important to present yourself the way that you want people to perceive you. So I think it's really important to, be professionally dressed and, going about your business. I wish I would have been more like that when I first got started. I think almost like I had to develop the confidence in my own real estate career before I started projecting it, and I probably should have just projected it first. That might have been a lot easier. So I think that's really important. Maybe a financial organization system would be good for me, but that's probably not going to happen. And also I think maybe more consistent marketing as far as like now I'm much more consistent with marketing and video. I wish I would have just done that from the very beginning.
Let's wrap this all up. How would you sum up your success in the last 5 years, specifically why you're sitting here today? If you could just sum it up in just a couple of sentences, what do you think is the main reason why? So we'll start with you, Shannon.
I think the main reason for my success is that I just care about every client that I have, and I care about the transaction going in a way that's positive for them. And I think it's important to just be yourself and be who you are. That is who I am. Like I'm very empathetic. So I think it's really important not to advertise yourself as anything but who you really are.
I would say my success is from my desire to truly want to help people. And people always talk about that you should really know your why, and that's easy for me to come back to, is that I want to help people, and that's why I'm in this business. I also truly believe that in this business you have to be the CEO of your business, and this is a job, not a hobby. So when I really don't want to door knock, or when I really don't want to do a certain activity, I have to think about that there's always some parts of your job that you might not like. But again, that this is a job, not a hobby. And then if there are things that you're not good at or that aren't to your skill set, hire them out.
I think my success comes from just putting myself out there and letting everyone know what I do for my career. So, I have no problem, talking about RE/MAX and wearing the clothes and letting everyone know what I do. And then just knowing that at the beginning of every year I'm setting goals and I'm working really hard at those goals and just tracking and measuring everything as I go.
2 things. One is just showing up to the office. I didn't want to. You want a day off in the middle of the week, and consistently finding something. If I'm bored at the office with nothing to do, there's free videos, there's all kinds of RE/MAX learning out there. And then with the learning, I try to get 1 designation or advanced class every year, and I think that's key. There's all kinds of opinions. They're not local. Sometimes we only get stuck with what the other local office is doing or our competitors, and it's a big United States. There's all kinds of ideas that we do not do here, and new ideas are helpful.
I think it's really important to surround yourself with like-minded people where you want to go to the office and people that really build you up and make you challenge you to reach your goals and to go to the next level.
You would handle the objection of someone saying, can you lower your commission?
I've said yes and I've said no. Said yes for specific reasons. If I think it's not them monetarily just trying to get more money. If it's a tough situation where they are coming up from being upside down or they have a valid point, that exception has been made. And I've said no and I've lost the listing. I have a builder that would love to work with me. He calls me all the time. He will not work with me because I won't reduce my commission. And for him, it's just monetary. I think I have more value. I could increase the price of his home to make up for that. And him, that being the only reason, I'm just okay saying no to that.
I also have said yes and no, so I will take into consideration each transaction differently. So if I'm helping them purchase a home, I may work with them on the sale price, of the commission on the sale of their home. So if I'm getting more than one transaction out of it. Also, there's a lot of the flat fee brokers out there right now, and knowing your numbers. So if you go on MLS and you look at your numbers and your list price to sale price, and knowing, maybe who your competitor is, or what company is your competitor, who are you competing with, like a flat fee, and seeing the numbers and using that to your benefit of, hey, I'm going to get you more for your house, and ultimately the cost isn't really much different from a flat fee broker.
And I think to maybe piggyback off of that, it's a good time to share examples about that you can save money in different places, but then you get what you pay for, right? So if somebody doesn't have the support of a full service agent, how are they going to negotiate transactions, and how are they going to fully market? And if you're cutting commission, you're cutting from those budgets. So in order to have a full service professional experience, this is what the cost is.
Yeah, I was going to say a lot of what Ann said too. I think it's important to show them this is what I can offer you for this price. And it's good to have a flyer of stats that show, hey, when you sell it for sale by owner, this is your result. And when you sell it with a professional real estate company, this is your result. And I also think if someone's coming, you have to base it on the transaction. But if someone's coming to you from a place of greed saying, well, you're going to reduce your commission for me, it's a lot different than when something went wrong and the appraisal didn't come in and you need to give a little to make everybody happy. That, I don't have any problem doing that. But when it comes from a place of greed, hey, you're gonna do it for 5%, that, I'm comfortable saying no, because this is what I can offer you.
Just to piggyback on that too, just another kind of analogy out there too is you can say, if you're gonna get dental work done, are you gonna have the hygienist do your teeth, or are you gonna have the dentist do your teeth? Or if you're gonna have surgery, are you gonna have a doctor do your surgery, or are you gonna have the assistant? Just kind of play off of that. You want to hire the professional. There's a reason they're hiring us. We are the professional in this business.
There's a really good illustration of a kindergarten drawing of a horse and a tattoo artist of a horse, and it says, which one would you hire to do your tattoo?
Yeah.
And it's a good one page, pretty simple.
I haven't heard any, or I haven't heard a lot about lead generation. If you guys are paying for Zillow, Realtor, Truly, I know some of you are on Google Ads. Is there anything that you've done in the past or maybe currently for more lead generation that's outside of your sphere?
Good question.
The only thing I pay for is sponsored Facebook ads. I feel that it's a really low cost way to, we have things that we pay for at the office level, but on a personal agent level, other than paid Facebook ads, I don't pay for leads. And like I said earlier, I felt like when I was paying for Zillow leads, it was wasting my time more than it was turning out. And so I just didn't, feel like it had a lot of value. I would rather than spend $100 on something, I would rather be on a committee and go to a meeting once a month and meet all those people. Feel like my time is more valuable than that $100 I could give to Zillow in my community.
I'm also spending money boosting Facebook ads. I was paying for Zillow leads. I'm not paying for Zillow leads right now, and part of that is because I've been changing CRMs and follow-up systems, and so I believe that there's value in Zillow leads and other leads that you pay for, but if you don't have a really great follow-up plan, then you might as well not do it. And that great follow-up plan, I truly believe, needs at least 8 to 12 touches and a variety of different touches, text messages, phone calls, videos, emails.
I spend just money on Facebook and Instagram ads. So social media is where I spend most of my time.
I do both. Facebook boosted ads for my sphere, right? Those are people that are in your area and they probably already know you or your brand. So if there's something specific that I want to announce or go after those people, that's great. I do that. I do pay for Zillow and Realtor for markets that we're not present. Outlying areas, we're pretty rural. So if I want something 35 minutes away, we don't have an office, I don't volunteer there. And it's a smaller group of agents as well. So for minimal money, you are recognized and it has worked.
You hear a lot about value proposition, and I just wondered, what sets you apart if you have a set elevator speech, a 20-second speech. If somebody says, Shannon, if I list with you, what are you going to do different than anybody else can do? Do you have that speech, all four of you? And if you do, would you mind sharing?
I don't know if I realized I did right before this minute, but I think I do. I will always say my background is in IT and marketing and technology, and we live in a technology-based world. So I can make sure that you and your property are on the forefront of everyone's mind, and I will make sure that it has the most modern and appropriate marketing to get it out there.
I'm having a flashback to a training that Michelle did where we all did our elevator speeches, and we wrote them down, and we did them for the group, and I don't quite have mine that quickly, but when I am meeting somebody and I am talking about value, some of the things that I'm talking about are professionalism, being an advocate for my clients, and being an expert in this market.
And you're a dog mom.
And I'm a dog mom.
I also remember Michelle having us do these elevator pitches, and I should have it done with my role playing that I do too. But the biggest thing I think that I bring to the table is the market exposure and the marketing. I really play off the fact that yes, I'm a real estate agent. I'm working in the business every day, all the time. I know the market trends that are going on, but I also love marketing, and I put your property out there. So the marketing is a big thing for me.
Look at the disc profile, understand who you're asking or who's talking to you, and give the response that way. Do they want exact numbers? Try and know your numbers for your area for the month, and you can give them a quick recap if it's that type of a brain. If somebody's asking you because they're scared and they want you to take over, you comfort them, let them know the services you provide as the mediator, and they don't have to deal with anybody face to face. It's just depending on who's asking that question.
Yeah, and something to add to that, I like to ask them a question, what is important to you, and then make sure that I can tell them what I can offer that will satisfy that desire for them. Because some people want to get the most money, some people want to make sure a happy little family with a dog lives in their house. Everybody has a different goal, so I make sure I know what they're going for so that I can provide that to them.
You all talk about how you manage your prospects and your clients. There are many CRMs out there. I just wanted to know from each of you if you could share, what do you use for a CRM? Do you use multiple CRMs? How much do you invest in it every month, or have you found a way to do it for free? And what have been the best programs you've found?
Personally, I just put everyone in my Google contacts. I make sure that their info is in there because I can get to that anywhere I am at any time. And that's it.
So the best CRM is the one that you use, regardless of what that may be. So I've been recently working with Line Desk. It's $20 a month. Part of the reason why I picked it is because you can integrate videos into it. So you can have a campaign that will have videos as part of it. But I think we're all looking forward to seeing what Boosh has to offer.
Yeah, she looks amazing.
I am currently waiting for Boosh to come out because I think I will be definitely using that. I used the Lead Street CRM for a while with the newsletter campaigns and things like that. But I also used my Google, Gmail and Google Contacts.
Same, everything's saved on my drive. It's in Google, it's public there for me. I can access it anywhere. There are a lot of CRMs that are complimentary. If you sign up for Tom Ferry, you get one of theirs, part of that coaching fee. They let you use one of theirs. BombBomb has the same. Try different ones that weren't something that I consistently used. So I just used the drive until Boosh comes out.
When you were new and you were trying to turn people into clients, did you struggle with selling yourself because you had minimal experience, and how did you overcome that?
I definitely did. So I was, I think, 24 when I got into the business, and I didn't really have a lot of sales experience. One thing I did have was property management experience, banking experience, so I kind of piggybacked under the umbrella of real estate banking, things like that. But the biggest thing I can recommend is to use your brokerage as your experience. So you can say things like, we have a combined 20 years of experience here. And I really used that verbiage and my brokerage as experience and didn't just rely on myself again. I relied on everyone else's experience.
I would say the same thing. All of my marketing materials said, we have this experience and our team can do this and we've got a proven track record and those types of words. I think also just working to position yourself as a knowledge broker, so people see you as giving information about what's happening in the market and which price points are moving the fastest and what are average days on market and some of those kinds of things. So even if you don't have the experience, you've got the knowledge.
Yes, I agree. Definitely use your brokerage, use stats from your brokerage to show your market share. I think to the RE/MAX brand, there's a lot of stuff out in Design Center and in the resources that show, 9 out of 10 people know what the RE/MAX balloon is and how RE/MAX sells so much more than others. So that's something you can add in a listing presentation. And I also think even when you don't have maybe the real estate experience, figure out what part of the business you do have the experience in. For me, it's the marketing and technology. And also, I was born and raised in my market. So, I point that out to people. This is my area. I know this area.
Yeah, they pick on you when you're new. They know. So they ask, how many years have you been doing this? And the answer is always low. So I tried to compensate that with value. I went ahead and printed all the GIS property maps with the listing for every single one. And people didn't care about the yard size, but it was one more thing. I knew where to find it and just brought it with and just overcompensated that way. Neighborhood stats, your Chamber of Commerce, community, things like that as well.
Do you have a plan for 5 or 10 years from now?
Yeah, 5 years. This was, year 5 of my 5-year. I started with a 5-year plan. I didn't want to be top year 1, but I wanted to be there in 5. And I've set these goals to get here. And it's always revolving. You got your goals for the year, your 5-year. I don't have a 10, but yes, they're always there.
I do have another 5-year goal. When I first started, so I'm on year 5. So first year was very, very minimal income and transaction-wise. Second year, I was able to double it. And then I told myself, set my 5-year as a 6-figure. So I just keep upping my game and keep going forward.
I don't have a 5-year plan. And in fact, I was actually just talking to my mentor coach yesterday, and he was talking about the importance of a 5 and 10-year plan. And he was also talking about it as not only doing it for your business, but doing it for your life, to have a 5-year life plan. And he's challenged me to also do this activity with my spouse and to do the plans separately and then to come together and review them. And we'll see what happens.
Obviously the answer is no, but but I think for me personally, it's always about just personal achievement and continuing to go forward, whether it's just doing more than before, but not necessarily even so intentionally with numbers, just as far as my process and my connections with people and always adding in maybe something I wasn't doing before to do a little bit better and hoping that translates into financial success through real estate.
So each of them is going to get a RE/MAX backpack, and inside there's a hot and cold tumbler that's branded. There's a folder for your documents, vinyl. There is a pop socket and a wallet for a wallet holder in the back of your cell phone. So I got all of these from Deluxe Marketing, which is one of our approved suppliers. But let's hand this to them. Thank you so much. All right, everyone, let's give them a round of applause.